The dark web is full of dark secrets. For true, terrifying stories that will make you wonder, is the internet a safe place? From secret chat rooms to horrifying offers you won't believe. Can you handle hearing them till the end? At this point, I started feeling sickened by the animations. What had once seemed fun and exciting now felt grotesque and wrong. I wanted out. I tried to exit the site, but the page kept changing, revealing more disturbing images. The two men were no longer cartoons. They were real people in a sterile room, wearing white masks, standing next to the dismembered body of a woman. One of the men held a piece of a business suit, drenched in blood. The voice, still disguised, said, "Wasn't it fun? You wanted to see more, didn't you? Now it's your turn to experience it. Don't leave the site or you'll ruin all the fun." I was frozen in fear, drenched in sweat. I realized that the animations weren't just cartoons. They were disguised recordings of actual crimes. I felt a sharp panic rising within me. Then 3 options appeared. Yes, I want to experience it. No, I don't want to experience it, and I want to meet you. I clicked no, frantically over and over, trying to escape. My heart was pounding in my chest. The screen froze for a moment, then the voice urged, "Why are you refusing? You wanted this, didn't you? Just click the right answer." I was in full panic mode now, my breathing erratic, my heart racing. My fingers were numb as I fought to close the page. Finally, I managed to exit the site, but the website disappeared without a trace from my browser history, as though it had never existed. I felt like I had just woken up from a nightmare. When my brother came home, I told him everything. He didn't seem as shocked as I was. He quickly took the computer from me, fiddled with something I didn't understand, and turned it off. He scolded me for using his computer without permission and explained that I had just accessed something from the dark web. I didn't know much about the dark web at the time, but my brother did. He studied computer science and knew about these things. He told me he had blocked the site with a code, but now he needed to make sure the computer hadn't been compromised. In my panic, I asked him if what I had seen was real. He confirmed it was and warned me that these people were dangerous. I suggested calling the police, but he told me not to even think about it, as that would put us in serious danger. This only made me more terrified, but he reassured me that everything would be fine. The next day, I asked him again about the situation, but he just told me not to worry, that everything was under control. I was 20 years old, obsessed with online games. Playing was my escape from the pressures of daily life. When my personal laptop broke down, I had no choice but to borrow my older brother's computer, even though he had strictly forbidden me from using it. At the time, I was constantly looking for new gaming websites, and one day I came across a site that seemed interesting, offering a variety of exciting games. I thought I would find something new and fun. While browsing, a pop-up appeared at the top right corner of the screen with a strange title, Death Games. At first, I thought it was just another advertisement, but something about the pop-up caught my attention. The design was off, and the text on the screen felt odd. But my curiosity got the better of me, and I clicked on the link. This was something I often did when I encountered something unusual online. The moment I clicked, everything changed. A new page opened, and a red text appeared. "Hello, do you want to watch someone die? Click here to continue." The words looked like they were dripping, as if covered in blood, and it gave me a strange feeling. I hesitated for a moment, but then I saw a voice from the screen, almost urging me to continue. "Don't be scared. It's just a game." In the end, I clicked the button without thinking too much about it. My curiosity was overwhelming. Immediately after pressing the button, I was shown crude, cartoon-like animations. There were 3 characters, 2 men wearing masks and black and white striped shirts, and a woman sitting in the center, drawn in an exaggerated, terrified manner. One of the men on the screen looked directly at me, as if he were staring right at me, and he smiled. Then he asked, "Do you want to see her die?" There were 2 options, yes or no. I hesitated for a moment but clicked yes as my curiosity took over. What happened next was more than just a game. The other man, who now wore a butcher's apron, appeared next to an operating table with tools at the ready. The animation that followed still haunts me. The man started using a hacksaw that sounded eerily real, as did the woman's screams, which seemed disturbingly authentic. The animation was grotesque, as the man sawed through her body, one part at a time. The sound of the saw cutting through her bones and the horrific screams sent chills down my spine. I should have laughed at how poor the animation was, but the screams were too real. I felt a strange unease. After a moment, the voice from the screen asked, "Did you like that? Want to see something even worse?" Without thinking, I clicked yes again, and the next animation began. This time, it was the same 2 men, now in scuba gear, and the third person was no longer a woman, but a man in an executive suit standing near a large pond. The man's hands were tied behind his back, and one of the divers held a sign that read, "Do you want to watch him die?" Again, I hesitated but clicked yes. The diver grabbed the man by his ankles and dragged him into the water. The man screamed and begged for his life as he was submerged. The sound effects were again disturbingly realistic. As the victim struggled, in the water, a huge alligator appeared, grabbed him, and pulled him under. The detail in the sounds was so unsettling that I could barely believe it. I will never forget the moment we first discovered the deep web, a place filled with the darkest corners of the internet. My friends and I were in high school, obsessed with internet urban legends. We spent hours surfing sites like Reddit or 4chan, searching for bizarre and unsettling content, old and new. We weren't looking for anything specific, we just craved the thrill of the unknown. Growing up in the 2000s, we were part of the first generation with access to high-speed internet. At home, it was a world of endless exploration, with no one watching over us. We could listen to a song, then dive deep into the web to learn more about it. While most of us just downloaded music and videos from platforms like LimeWire, some of us ventured further into the unknown. LimeWire was like a digital game of Russian roulette. You thought you were downloading a My Chemical Romance song, but you'd end up with a horrifying video of a decapitation. The idea of the deep web had always intrigued us. It existed long before we knew about it, but it was the mid-2000s when the term gained traction. People were spreading rumors, telling horror stories about it, and the fascination was irresistible. At school, my classmates couldn't stop talking about it, feeding into our curiosity. The deep web became the ultimate forbidden frontier, a place to see things no one else had seen. Naturally, we had to explore it. We didn't want to use our own devices for fear of hackers and dangerous people lurking there. So, we decided to buy a second-hand laptop exclusively for this purpose. We did hours of research before diving in, making sure we understood what we were getting into. But being high school students, we didn't have enough money to buy a laptop on our own. The urge to explore was too strong though, and one day I couldn't wait any longer. I took the plunge and accessed the deep web from my own computer at home. Getting in wasn't as hard as they made it sound. It wasn't illegal to access the deep web. It's what you do once you're inside that matters. After days of research, I figured out how to access it. I won't explain how, so you don't make the same mistakes I did, but let's just say you need a special browser. Once I had everything set up, I started exploring. Navigating the deep web isn't like the normal internet. There are no URLs, only specific addresses you need to know. I began by visiting sites that looked interesting but safe. I turned to 4chan for advice, and the users there warned me to stay away from the deep web. But after a night of questioning and bargaining, one of them passed me a link to a list of dark web addresses. There were thousands of them, and my mind spun with possibilities. At first, I clicked through link after link, only to find dead sites. After the first 10 or 20 dead ends, I felt like I was scammed. But I didn't give up. I'd spent too much of my high school life talking about this place to walk away now. Finally, I clicked a link that led me to a live site, an online marketplace. But this wasn't an ordinary marketplace. It was filled with the most twisted items for sale. One site, for instance, offered urine of all types, some supposedly clean enough to pass a drug test. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I stayed there browsing for hours, documenting everything for my friends. When I told them, they didn't believe me. They were freaked out and kept asking if I was crazy or if the FBI was watching me. But I was too exhilarated to care. A few weeks later, my friends would come over after school, usually when my parents were out, and we'd try different URLs from that list. Some websites were gone, others still active. We discovered a forum where people claimed to be hitmen offering assassination services. Prices ranged from $20,000 to $50,000, depending on the target's profile. We weren't sure if it was all role play, but curiosity got the best of us, and we signed up for an account. We didn't provide too much personal info, keeping it vague, just to see what would happen. The more we explored, the more twisted things became. One day, while browsing another site, a small blue bubble appeared in the upper right corner of my screen. It looked like an eyeball, but it was tiny, the size of my pinky nail. I thought nothing of it, assuming it was just a browser notification, but it didn't go away. Even after I closed the browser, it lingered. I scanned my computer, tried everything I could think of to get rid of it, but it stayed there watching. Despite this creepy little eye, we didn't stop. We continued our exploration, moving to more dangerous sites. A few weeks later, we came across a forum where hackers offered services to steal passwords and break into systems. We hung out there for a while, but eventually that blue bubble disappeared. We thought it was over, but we had no idea what was coming next. One day, a text box popped up. It was a message from an administrator. They had been monitoring us since we first entered the site. They knew everything about us, our names, our school, our families. They warned us that we were being watched and that our lack of security made us easy targets for hackers. The administrator had even removed the hitchhiker tracking us. He gave us a final warning. Disconnect now if you know what's good. For you. He even mentioned the blue bubble, explaining that it was someone tracking our every move. We were all in shock. The message ended with a chilling statement. There are only two ways to learn that this is not a game. The easy way, or the hard way. I've warned you. At that moment, everything hit us. The excitement, the thrill, the curiosity. Suddenly, it all seemed foolish. We were kids, playing with fire. I immediately disconnected, wiped my computer, and that was the last time I ventured into the deep web. My story began in a very strange moment. At that time, I was in a phase of life where I could no longer distinguish the boundaries between reality and escaping from it. Drugs had become my way of distancing myself from life's worries, especially marijuana. But one day, when I needed something stronger, I realized I didn't have a dealer to supply me with what I needed. As I was feeling lost, my college friend suggested I use the dark web. At first, I didn't understand what he was talking about, but after explaining a few details, he downloaded a special browser on my computer called Tor. He left me 3 links to pages where I could buy the drugs I wanted, and it was clear that there was more I could find there, but with different levels of security and prices. What shocked me the most was how easy it was to make a purchase. The process was extremely simple. Just a few clicks and Bitcoin transfers, and if I was lucky, I would find what I wanted in my mailbox after a short time. But I wasn't just an addict. I was also an incredibly curious person, so I decided to explore this dark world further. I started visiting the sites my friends had recommended just to buy drugs. But one day, in a rare moment of clarity, I decided to explore the unknown for myself. Tor opened up an entirely new world to me, one filled with strange and dangerous things. At first, I was only looking for information, but my curiosity soon pushed me to search deeper into the dark corners. I wasn't looking for anything specific, but I felt an intense desire to find the shady websites I had heard my friends mention. Began searching the dark web, quickly realizing that you can't just type red rooms or hitmen for hire into a search engine and get results. You have to find the links to these sites first, which made it even more intriguing. I spent a long time searching, but I couldn't find anything of value until one day when I discovered a link on a dark web subreddit on Reddit. The post was simple, a text titled "Murder and the Life of a Murderer," with a random mix of numbers and letters. After a moment of thought, I realized it was a link to a hitman website. I copied it and pasted it into the dark web browser, not expecting it to work. But to my surprise, it did. Once I entered the site, I saw a strange name at the top of the page, Assassination and Life Destruction Services, alongside a logo of a skull inside a dark tunnel. I thought it was a joke, but as I scrolled down, I was not disappointed. There was a paragraph of green text covering almost the entire page, listing all the ways they could kill someone. I laughed to myself, thinking it was just a prank, but a part of me was still confused. I had decided not to take any risks. I was about to close my computer and go to bed when I heard a knock on the door. I opened it quickly, only to find my friend Mark, my trusted drug dealer, walking in with a large bag of marijuana. I took some and smoked for a while before returning to my computer. After that, everything became blurry. I didn't remember what happened next. I woke up the next morning around 9 a.m. feeling like I had only slept for a couple of hours, even though I had been asleep for 6. I tried to ignore what had happened the previous night, but when I opened my computer, I discovered something that terrified me. I had ordered my own death. At first I thought it was a joke, but there was an email from the website confirming that the hitman was on his way. Despite still being under the influence of the drugs, I felt a strange emptiness in my stomach. Later that night, a dark sedan parked across the street from my house. I lived in a busy area, but this car was hidden behind trees and bushes, making it almost invisible to anyone else. I walked to the kitchen window and watched it. My heart raced. What if this was real? What if the hitman had arrived? I decided to check it out myself. I put a small knife in my pocket and walked outside. I approached the sedan, but nothing happened. There was no one inside. At first, I felt relieved, but a part of me still couldn't shake the anxiety. I went back inside, but when I did, the power suddenly went out. I froze for a moment. Then, after about 30 seconds, the electricity came back on and all the appliances began to beep. Just as I was starting to calm down, I heard several knocks at the door. My body tensed immediately, and I asked in a trembling voice who it was. There was no answer. I waited for about 15 minutes, but no one knocked again. I gathered my courage and walked to the door. When I opened it, I was surprised to find no one there. But as I was about to close the door, I looked down and saw a black envelope. I picked it up and took it inside. After a moment of hesitation, I opened it. My jaw dropped. Inside the envelope were several photographs of me taken from my computer. I looked dazed, and the photos were taken at 3 a.m. that same day, most likely when I had ordered my death. On the back of the last photo was a handwritten note: "Don't play with what you don't know. You were lucky today, but if I see you on my site again, you're dead. Stay away from the dark web." At that moment, my whole body started to shake. I ran to the bathroom to vomit, then immediately deleted everything from my computer and formatted it. That was the last time I ever entered the dark web. I was 14 years old when this story began. I had always been a target for bullying, especially at school. I was that thin, bespectacled kid who was constantly mocked for my appearance. As the years passed, bullying became a part of my daily life, not just because of my physical appearance, but also because of my sexual orientation. I felt like I was always being targeted. But one day, when everything became unbearable, I decided I would do something about it. I'd reached a point where humiliation and disgrace had become too much to bear. At that moment, I couldn't stand being the weak one who was laughed at every day. When the day came that I decided to take my dignity back at any cost, I didn't realize that the choice I made would lead me to destruction. It was a normal day after our last class of the day, physical education. I was walking with my classmates toward the exit when suddenly a soccer ball hit me square in the face. I fell to the ground, my face covered in dirt. Before I could even think, another ball flew toward me and hit me in the face again. I stumbled backward, my vision blurred. I wished someone would help me, but everyone just laughed. Then came Juan, the biggest bully in school, with his group of friends, continuing to mock me. He pushed me down and said, "Why don't you just disappear and leave us alone? No one wants you here." They left me on the ground crying while they kept laughing. That was the moment I snapped. I felt like I'd lost everything. My life had been filled with humiliation, but this moment changed something inside me. I got home, locked myself in my room, and collapsed on the bed, crying. That was the moment I decided to seek revenge. I sat down at my computer, overwhelmed by anger and pain. I searched online for a way out of this misery, and I found myself reading through forums where people shared stories of revenge, people who had suffered like me and decided to take control. It was there that I first read the phrase, "an eye for an eye," and it sparked something dark inside me. I wanted my tormentors to pay for all the pain they had caused me. I stumbled upon a link that led me to the dark web, the hidden corner of the internet that was said to have anything you wanted, including extreme solutions to life's problems. At first I felt skeptical, but soon my curiosity and desperation overpowered my caution. This could be the answer I was looking for. I clicked on the link, and there was a page with several strange options, but one stood out. Hitmen for hire. I was stunned, but I kept reading. The page claimed they could eliminate anyone causing you trouble for a price. The first people I thought of were my tormentors. How good would it feel if they disappeared? There was even a free service called problem removal. What did that mean? I shrugged and clicked the order button. I filled in the names and addresses of all the people who had tormented me, including Juan and my teacher, Professor Fernandez, who once punished me after class for my bad grades and never allowed me to defend myself. At the end of the form, it asked for payment, $25,000. I stared at the screen, wide-eyed. I didn't have that much money, especially not in Bitcoin. I was about to close the page when a strange window popped up, asking if I had the amount to cancel. Yes or no? It seemed odd. Why would a website ask that? I clicked no to exit, but instead a new tab opened asking for my personal details, including my name and address. Hesitantly, I entered them. What did I have to lose? I clicked send, and something strange happened. The screen displayed a message, list of results, with a list of all the people I had entered. But my name was at the bottom, under the Pay for Work section. I quickly forgot about the page, as my mum called me for dinner. But as the days passed, I noticed something odd. Juan, who always waited for me outside school to bully me, was suddenly nowhere to be found. None of his friends were around either. It was as though they had vanished. I wondered if they were sick or something, but I didn't see them in the halls or in class. It was as if they had disappeared. Then one day, the teacher walked into class with disheveled hair and smeared makeup. She looked like she had been crying. She told us that Juan, Samuel, and Dixon had passed away. I went pale. How could this be? Could it have been the website? I froze, staring at Professor Fernandez. She wasn't alive. Could it really be the website? I breathed a sigh of relief, thinking it was just a coincidence. But that relief didn't last. As the teacher spoke, I noticed something strange. She was holding a cup of coffee, but her face was turning blue, and the coffee spilled over her desk. She dropped the cup, and I realized, horrified, that her eyes were wide open, staring into the void. She collapsed to the floor. She was dead. Panic spread throughout the classroom, and everyone rushed out. I ran with them, my mind racing. It couldn't be the website, could it? As I was running home, I suddenly noticed a car following me. I started running faster, but the car matched my pace. Finally, it stopped a few meters ahead of me, and a man stepped out. He was dressed all in black with a shaved head and a face covered in scars. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I was paralyzed with fear. "You think you can rip me off?" the man said. "You placed an order, and I fulfilled it. Now it's time to pay." "No, I didn't mean it," I tried to protest. "Doesn't matter what you meant, kid. The contract is binding, and I always collect my payments." I turned and ran, but the man was faster, much bigger than me. I could hear his footsteps getting closer and closer. Eventually, he caught up with me. I was missing for 2 weeks. They found me thanks to an anonymous call that led them to my location. I don't know who called, but I'm grateful to be alive. Well, sort of. It turns out I'm missing a kidney, my left hand, and some other things I'd rather not think about. Most likely, they've already been sold on the black market of the deep web.